Order. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Kingman City Council, held on Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. Turn some time over to our city clerk.
Thank you. Mayor Watkins.
Here.
Vice Mayor Samily.
Here.
Councilmember Pat.
Present.
Councilmember Savage.
Here.
Councilmember Scott Staley.
Present.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
And Councilmember Ward.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight, we would like to first stand and start off with a moment of silence and remember, and of course, with thoughts and prayer of the families and those who are affected by the horrific crash that happened last Thursday evening, and some of our youth were involved with. And anyway, if we could all stand and do that first, then we will have an invocation given by Russ Jungquist of College Park Baptist Church, and then I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for all of us. Pray that you would be with us today. Go out and bless the proceedings. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to have to live in you where we can for our representation. Lord, we pray that we would be with all the families involved. Excellent.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The council may go into executive session for legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431-.09A3 to discuss any agenda item. The following items may be discussed and considered and decisions made relating thereto. Item number 1, call to the public, comments from the public. Those wishing to address council, the council should fill out request forms in advance. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda, with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. The council may not respond to speakers during the call to the public. The council may direct the city manager to study the matter or request that the matter be placed on a future agenda. Item number 2, consent agenda. Oh no, call to the public, I'm first. Clerk Meredith.
Mayor, we don't have anybody that's requested to address the council this evening.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2, consent agenda. All matters listed here are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Councilors?
Mayor Watkins,
Yes.
I would like to remove consent agenda items E and G.
Okay, E and G. Anyone else? Okay. Can we have a motion then approving items A, B, C, D, and F?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Counselor Pat, item E.
Mayor Watkins, I believe I may have a potential conflict of interest on E. I'm trying to avoid the appearance of impropriety in playing favorites with defense counsel I work with on a daily basis.
Okay, real good. Noting that then, Carl, do we need to read that whole item? I'm sorry.
If you just note what the item actually is, then
I will do that. Item E, Indigent Defense Council Contract Award. And thank you for notifying us, Councilor Pat, about that. Can we have a motion then approving item E on our consent agenda?
So moved.
second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Then again, Councilor Pat, item G, Sunbelt Sports Park Drainage Channel Design.
Mayor Watkins, I can't vote in favor of this in good conscience. My personal opinion is that before the interchanges get built in, adding recreational activities is going to increase our liabilities before our assets. I just can't in good faith at this time vote for this item. I'll be voting against it.
Okay. Discussion from other councilors? Vice Mayor?
I would just like an explanation of what it is. I know we have our backup, but I mean,
Manager
it's
Fryer.
purely a drainage project, correct?
So in order to make this facility work as a park, we actually have to take care of a large amount of drainage that runs across this property. So this is really the first step in moving forward in creating this recreation facility. And without it, there's just too much water that runs across the property. So this drainage project is simply a drainage project that makes the park work. So that's what it is, just straight up taking care of drainage that actually runs across this property in its natural flow.
So is this something that can be delayed until after we have the other infrastructure in, or is there a reason it's coming before us now?
We've budgeted to start the park this year. Money is sitting there waiting, and this is just the first step. So this was the council's desire to start moving forward in fiscal year '23, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay. Well, actually, is there any more discussion? Counselor, yes, Counselor Staley.
I would go ahead and add to that, maybe a little bit better of a explanation is that this is an area of town where we have so much water that comes down off the mountain, and you'll remember that that school that is located right by the park has been flooded multiple times, and this drainage helps take care of that, and then would hopefully down the road be an area where we can get that water back into the ground. So capturing it up higher actually does that whole section of town a big favor, and it'd be great if we could then put it into one of these French drains where it goes back into the aquifer. So I also support this, and if you're ready,
We have a motion already. So
Okay.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, we'll take that as a motion. Counselor Staley?
I second that.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so noted. Yep.
And just, can we clarify that the vice mayor made the motion to approve?
Yes.
I just wasn't sure if I actually heard those.
Did you need me to put it on record?
Please.
I would like to make a motion to approve item G on the consent agenda, the Sunbelt Sports Park Drainage Channel Design.
And, okay, I just want to make sure everybody was clear that's what was going on.
Correct. And Counselor say yes. Okay. Moving forward, item number 3, old business, we have none. Item number 4, new business, we have none tonight. Item number 5, department reports. 5A, Veterans Court Report. And we have Judge Singer here tonight. Welcome, Judge.
All right, the timer going? I want to, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Again, we like to do this to give y'all an annual report on what's going on with our Veterans Treatment Court because, again, it's the pride of the Kingman Municipal Court and hopefully the pride of the council as well. So first and foremost, I wanted to bring over Jessica Dorgan, who's our Specialty Courts Program Coordinator. You know, I get way too much credit. She's really the brains behind the operation, and wanted to just recognize her that she's been the one that really helped us be successful with the Veterans Treatment Court. And since then, as you all know, we've added on a domestic violence court, we've added on a truancy court, and she oversees all those programs in conjunction with myself. So I just wanted to recognize Jessica and the amazing work she's done, and again, and also helps her being a veteran herself. So I just think it makes that connection so much stronger with the individuals that she works with. But the documents that we submitted for y'all to review, we submitted a few things. One was just, I know we have new council members, some are more familiar with the vet court than others, but just the brochure that we give out to the veterans, to the public, to anybody who's interested, kind of gives a summary of what the Veterans Treatment Court is. So just so y'all have that and what we're doing, and then the sort of ancillary projects that we have along with it, with the Veterans Resource Team, with the mentor team, and all the projects that go along that are tied into the program. Secondly is what I supply every year to the council is a summary of our graduate evaluations. It kind of, again, you know, when they're in the courtroom, it's easy for them to, you know, how do I put it? I mean, just kiss up to me and just tell me everything's great and the program's just wonderful and everything like that. This gives them the opportunity, because it's anonymous, it's on graduation day, most of them I'll never see again. Go ahead, let us have it. What's working right, what isn't, and we use it as a tool to know what we need to continue on, you know, strongly, and what we need to work on. Nothing really that jumps out at me. We had 16 graduates last year. I do find it odd that only 13 turn these in. Usually we get about 100% return rate on these, so that was a little strange to me when I counted up how many graduates we had and how many turned these in. But I remember last year, odd thing was it was kind of a 50-50 split about whether they wanted to become mentors or not afterwards. This year it was for 22, it was a little different. It went along with what our kind of trends are, that most of them would come back and support the program and be mentors. And you know, you see the comments in there, and again, like I said, I get way too much credit for this program, but you know, when you hear things about, you know, saving veterans' lives and changing their lives and things like that, again, the court gets a lot of credit, but you all should too. You all enable me to have this program and to give back to our veterans, and I think it's just reflective of how supportive we are of our veterans in this community. So, you know, the summary is what it is. Again, nothing that really jumped out. I think for the most part we're doing well. I think one area that I'm really pushing hard on these days is our alumni group. It's something that is very important to me. You know, you can have all the specialty courts in the world, and people do, and talk about all the wonderful things. You know what it all comes down to? It all comes down to recidivism. I went to a conference last week, and I just kept preaching that to everybody who would listen to me. And you can talk about all the bells and whistles and all the things you have, and you know, you can, you know, paint a pretty picture on it. It all comes down to recidivism. That is what we are wanting. We are wanting our veterans to not re-offend. And I'm very proud that our recidivism rate is under 5%. And that's something we continue to monitor. But what concerns me, and what I'm really a big advocate of, is making sure that we have a strong alumni group. And that's really what I've been pushing. It's a challenge. I don't, you know, a lot of these veterans, why did they get into the criminal justice system after they left the military? It's because they felt lost. They didn't have that camaraderie. They didn't have that bond anymore when they left. And then some of them go on to do great things, but unfortunately there's a minority of veterans who get themselves involved in the criminal justice system. And so I didn't want to do that to them again. That when they finish our program, it's like, okay, you graduated, all right, enjoy your piece of cake. Whatever happened to your charges, whether they were reduced, dismissed, or whatever, all right, goodbye. I don't want to do that, because we're doing the same thing as kind of what a lot of them felt like in the military, is they didn't have that connection, they didn't have that bond anymore. And that's why the alumni group is so important to me. And it goes along with keeping our recidivism rates low, I believe, as long as we can keep them connected. Some of them just don't, you know, they're done, they got other things to do, they just don't want to be a part of it. And I understand that, and I respect that. but I want to make it available to them, that they know that we're here for them, the court, the mentors, the team. And so we have events. We had a picnic this past Saturday, and it was pretty well attended. But right now, our big emphasis, our push is our alumni group. We've been able to partner with the Heidenreich Center. We're going to have our first. Last year, we had a couple of several alumni events, and it went pretty well. But I want to do this now on a monthly basis that gives them the opportunity. Hey, if you want to come, and we're calling it our buddy check, and you want to be a part of this, we're going to make it available to you, and come and socialize with fellow veterans. We'll have some food there. We'll have, be able to socialize and get together, and that way they have that opportunity on a monthly basis. So again, we're going to be doing that, I think, the first Tuesday of every month over in the Heidenreich Center is going to be hosting that, and we're going to see how it goes here. We started out doing it a couple of years ago monthly. We noticed attendance dwindled real quick. So then we started doing it quarterly. Now we're going to go back and see what we can do monthly, and at least just make it available to them to know that they've got some place to come back to that is their Veterans Treatment Court family. So other than that, the only other document I put in here, I just wanted to let you all know how this is not just Kingman, Mojave County, how we're going nationwide. I had the privilege of being able to present to the National Drug Court Vet Court Conference in Nashville last year. And you kind of see, again, strictly anonymous afterwards, you kind of see the results and the comments and everything on how people thought of our presentation. We talked about our alumni group and what we're doing with that and our push for that and how important we believe that is, as well as we also talked about our Veterans Resource Team. And as the mayor knows, and as a part of our Veterans Resource Team, where we meet at noon on Vet Court Day, be able to bring in all the community partners who are being able to help out the veterans, and that way all the different organizations know what each other is doing to assist the veterans. Not only the veterans in my program, of course, that's how we benefit from it, but also for veterans as a whole, whether they're in the criminal justice system or not. I think it's a great collaboration that when we do that. I'd like to take credit for inventing that. I did not. I stole it from Lake Havasu. They came up with it, and we piggybacked on it pretty quick, and we've been doing it for a number of years. We appreciate the mayor. A part of it, one of our tasks is the mayor's challenge to end veterans homelessness. That's kind of one of our main goals with the Veterans Resource Team, and we're fighting that and doing our best with it. So anyway, that's what we presented, and I think you can tell, hopefully, what we're doing here in Kingman not only is getting spread throughout the state, but hopefully throughout the country, the good things that hopefully we're doing, and it all starts with you all in enabling me to do this program and being so supportive. Because let me tell you, I talk to other judges, and a lot of them struggle because they don't have the support that we have here in Kingman. And so I know how lucky and blessed I am because of you all that I get to do this and get to give back for our veterans here in the community. That's all I got.
Judge, thank you for that report. First and foremost, thanks for all that you and Jessica and all those in your staff do for our veterans in this court. I also would invite my fellow council members to attend. I know we're all busy, but over the next couple of months, attend the 12 o'clock, if that's all right with you.
Sure. The Veterans Resource Team.
That way they see the team and what it does,
Yes.
and then stay for the 1:30 graduation.
We have one. Yeah, and we have one tomorrow.
And one tomorrow.
Luncheon tomorrow at noon, and then we'll have graduation at 1:30. It's our first graduation of the calendar year. It's going to be, in my opinion, one of the most moving graduations we've ever had. I'll just say that.
Can you share a little bit more about your graduation wall too? That's quite the impressive what you've been able to do.
Yeah, I'm proud of that. We have a wall we call our Wall of Honor. Every graduate has their initials, their branch of service, and their date of graduation on there. We have 86 as of today. Tomorrow we'll have 89. We're graduating 3. And again, I'm very proud of that display because it takes a lot to get through the Veterans Treatment Court. And if you make it up there on our wall, you know you've earned something. And I just want everybody who does that to sort of be memorialized and remembered about their accomplishment. And let me tell you, I think that's one of the most important things when they see, we do a little ceremony where we take the tape off and they see their initials and the branch of service. I think it really means a lot to them. I mean, they take pictures. Some of them I've seen tear up over it. So we're very proud of it, and we'll be having a unveiling tomorrow with three amazing graduates.
Now, that wall of honor is very impressive. So once again, thank all of everybody, your mentors, volunteers, and everything that is involved with this program. It's a great program.
Thank you.
Questions from council for Judge Singer?
I'd like to make a statement, please.
Yes. Councilor Savage.
Judge Singer.
Yes.
I'm so proud of you. You don't give yourself enough credit. First of all, I want to thank you for the presentation you did for us. That helped out a lot. I've personally been involved in that court system, not myself personally, but I've seen the process. Your passion is undeniable. You take pride in those veterans. My son was one of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselors? Okay. Judge, thanks again.
All right, thank you all. Thank you.
5B, Stormwater Rate Study. Manager Foggin.
Thank you, Mayor. And we actually are going to turn this over to Tina to walk you through or introduce you to our consultant, Miss Tina. A consultant that you all know, I think, pretty well. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Welcome, Tina.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Tonight we have with us Ben Griffin, who is a consultant with Tischler Bice. He actually performed a development fee study as well as a water and wastewater capacity fee study for us. And now he has been working on the stormwater rate study, and he has a draft report that is available in your packets this evening, and he will provide a presentation going over those results. And with no further ado, I will turn the table over to Ben. Ben.
Thanks, Tina. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, thanks for giving me the opportunity tonight to walk you through the stormwater drainage study. We've been working on this for a while. I think we kicked off the impact fees, and originally this was going to be part of that in late 2019, early 2020. And then, after the adoption of the impact fees, we changed our focus to the stormwater utility. And, with the, recently adopted storm drainage master plan, it's given us guidance on, how we can develop this stormwater utility for the city of Kingman. So, what is a stormwater utility? Well, think of it as, similar to a water or wastewater utility. So it's a standalone entity, it's essentially, an enterprise or special revenue fund meant to, fund itself. So, we're looking at a fee-based system to fund Kingman stormwater management. So we're looking at operations and capital. And then, the stormwater utility provides, payment based on the actual demand from different types of development. So, why do you need a stormwater utility? Well, the Storm Drainage Master Plan identified $82.2 million worth of stormwater-related capital infrastructure. That's a June 2020 cost, and we know that inflation has been high since then, so that the number is likely much higher. We have actually looked at just 5 years worth of capital improvements. So we're looking at covering a portion of that original $82.2 million. Another reason we need a stormwater utility is because you have limited funding options. Currently, you receive about $600,000 per year from the Mojave County Flood Control District. And so, if you start thinking about, okay, well, $600,000 a year and, $82 million worth of, just capital alone, it would take you forever to fund all of that without other revenue sources. And so the stormwater utility provides a dedicated and reliable funding source to fund the stormwater needs of the city of Kingman. Also, a stormwater utility provides an equitable rate structure. So essentially, if your property generates less runoff, you have a lower fee. If you generate more runoff, then you have a higher fee. It's really tying the demand for stormwater infrastructure to that rate. And so what are the benefits of a stormwater utility? Well, it provides a stable revenue collection. So you can, because you're going to, or you would assess this in monthly bills, that's, money coming in every month to to fund operations, maintenance, capital improvements related to the stormwater needs. You'll see this as we go further into the slides, but the rates they're structured to cover actual stormwater revenue needs. We're not just saying, hey, we need to collect $300 million. No, we're saying these are very specific costs. These are O&M costs. These are capital improvement costs. These are transfers to other city revenues. So we're being very specific with these costs that are associated with this because we don't want to overburden development in the city of Kingman. All right, so the rate structure. You'll hear me talk about ERUs. So that's simply just an equivalent residential unit. So we're using the amount of impervious area for the average residential unit as our basis. And so impervious area is just the portion of the parcel that is it's not the ground. So anything that's going to create runoff when it rains. So we'll use a single family residential unit as our base ERU. And so, as I said, that's about 4,900 square feet of impervious area per single family residential parcel. And then to come up with the number of ERUs for other land uses, we just take the impervious area of that site, so a non-residential use or a multifamily use, and divide that by 4,900 square feet. So if you have a lot with 20,000 square feet of impervious area, then they're going to pay about 4 ERUs, or about 4 times the amount of a single family unit, because they are generating about 4 times the runoff as a single family unit. There are 2 exemptions. So if the site is undeveloped, so essentially no impervious area, they would not be charged a stormwater utility fee. And then the streets, the right-of-ways, and the drainage infrastructure, they would not be assessed a stormwater utility fee because they are all part of the drainage system. So they are providing, or they are an essential part of handling the stormwater drainage in Kingman. So the study assumptions, we're looking at fiscal years 24 through 28, so the next 5 years. Our annual growth assumptions for residential, they're currently at 1% growth, and by the end of the 5-year period, they're up to 2% annual growth. For the non-residential and multifamily customers, we're starting with a 0.4% growth rate and making up to 0.7% annual growth by the end of the 5 years. And then the annual growth in ERUs is about 200 per year. The escalation factors that we're using, for personnel, they start off at 4% in fiscal year 24. And then in fiscal year 26, they drop to 3.5%. For supplies and services, similar, start at 5%, and then in fiscal year 26 drop to 3.7%. And then for the capital escalation factors, we're using 4.95%, and that's based on recent inflation and construction cost factors published by Engineer News Record. And then there are also 2 fiscal policies staff asked us to explore. One is an operations reserve. So essentially this is just saying, hey, look, we want to have about 20% of our annual O&M expenses for the next year already in a reserve fund. That way, if something happens and we're a little short on revenues, we have that 20% backup. So we don't have to, change rates mid-year. Also a capital contingency reserve. This is going to be 20% of the next year's CIP expenses. So, if there is a last minute change in, a contractor, or, costs go up, you have that 20% already in the reserve to offset that cost increase. All right, so now we're going to just go through the various components of the study. So what you're looking at here, this is the operations and maintenance costs for the 5 years of the study. So what we're seeing is the individual divisions. So monsoon cleanup, shoulder washout cleanup, sweeping, and we're escalating those costs based on the personnel, the services costs that we discussed a couple slides ago. And so what we're saying here is, over the 5-year study period, O&M costs will be about $1.5 million related to stormwater. Right. And next up, we have capital improvements. So these are the projects included in the 5-year time frame. So you can see, in the first fiscal year, we're looking at about $3 million, $2.5 million in the next year, almost $3 million the year after, about 1.3, and then about 1.9 in the final year. We are going to escalate that based on the ENR construction cost index, 4.95% per year. And so at the bottom, you can see those escalated costs. So, about 3.1 million in the first year. And so once we escalate those costs over the 5-year period, we're looking at about $13.1 million in stormwater related capital costs. We also have a transfer to the engineering department. This is for their costs related to the capital improvement program. We're escalating this at 2% per year. So the related engineering cost to stormwater is about $520,000 over the next 5 years. All right. So we talked about the operations reserve earlier. So all we're doing here is trying to make sure that, before you start your fiscal year, you have a 20% reserve balance in case, there are fluctuations or changes in your revenue collections. And so you can see in fiscal year 24, we would need to transfer about $58,000 to prepare for, what you would need in fiscal year 25. But then in all years forward, we're looking at a transfer of less than $3,000 per year because those O&M expenses are increasing only slightly. So really it's just building up the fund balance in year 1 and then very slight increases each year after that to offset the escalated costs. I do the same thing for the capital contingency reserve. So in year 1, there's a transfer of $665,000. That way you have a 20% reserve prior to the start of fiscal year 25. And then you see, a $139,000 transfer to the reserve in fiscal year 27 and about $40,000 in 28. Again, that's just to make sure that you have that 20% reserve in case there is, some sort of change in cost to any of your capital improvements. So over 5 years, we're projecting about $844,000 in capital contingency reserve transfers. Right, so the revenue requirement is essentially the cost needed, or essentially the total cost which you would need revenue to offset. So you see, everything that we've discussed so far. At the top you have the O&M, in the middle you have the capital costs, and then the transfers at the bottom. And so the gross revenue requirement for the next 5 years is about $16 million for stormwater. And then the proposed financial plan, what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, if we start with a $10 per month cost per ERU, what would the rates need to look like over the next 5 years to offset this revenue requirement? And so if we start at $10 in fiscal year 24, then in fiscal year 25, we would need a 3% rate increase, another 3% in fiscal year 26, and then 4% in fiscal years 27 and 28. What you're seeing here does include that $600,000 per year from the flood control district. But essentially what we're doing here is making sure that you have that, that stable revenue source to pay for this, $16 million worth of, stormwater related costs. And so, we've talked about, the $10 per ERU going up to $11.47 per ERU. That is a monthly cost per ERU or per residential unit that would be assessed on the water bill. And then, we've been talking in ERUs. Before we go further with that, this is a quick monthly rate comparison to other Arizona cities. So you see Kingman at $10. Flagstaff is currently just over $11. They're looking at increasing their fees, I think this spring sometime, to about $14. And you see, other Arizona cities below that. What we're really seeing is, the larger cities, it's easier to spread those costs over more users to bring that cost down. But in smaller communities, when you have these very expensive projects, it's really hard to keep a very, very low fee because of just, the really high cost of these projects and, limited development. And so quickly, just to give you a comparison on the non-residential components. This is just showing a monthly rate comparison per acre. So, if a fee is $10 per residential unit per month, then, what does that mean for other development types? So, a commercial development, it's going to be an acre would be 6.7 ERUs. So their average monthly bill would be $67. An industrial user for an acre would be $62. Non-irrigated landscape would be $9. Pavement would be $80 per month, and multifamily would be $44 per month. And then just a comparison, if you had an acre of residential development, that's going to be just shy of 4 ERUs. So, you would have $36 in fee revenue generated per month from residential. And so what you can see is, the additional amount of impervious area increases the fees. So if you have, residential towards sort of the low end, then your, pavement, which is almost 100% impervious, or, commercial uses which generate a lot more runoff per acre than residential, then they're going to pay proportionately higher fees because of the additional demand placed for stormwater infrastructure. All right, and that is my final slide. So I'm here to answer any questions or, if you have any comments.
Thank you, Ben. Council, questions? Comments?
I question adding it to the water bill at a time when we're raising water rates. And sewer rates is going to be right behind it. And is it going to take care of the flooding, or is it just going to decrease it in areas? That's what I want. If it's just to clean up after the floods and decrease some of it, I don't see it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Yes.
I think it would be helpful. I saw, what was the cost? $82 million in projects. If we had a list to go with this, I think that should have been included in this. So
yeah, and so what you see here, this is the 5-year capital improvement program. So these are the actual construction that we would include over the next 5 years. So Airway Avenue, Bull Mountain, Hillcrest, detention upstream of 8th Street. We have several projects in here, actual construction that would be included in the next 5 years. There's just there's no way that we could include all $82 million in the next 5 years, because the fees would be very high. So this is really trying to balance the needs, the stormwater construction needs of the city with, what the market can actually bear.
Councilor Walker, did that help?
Yes and no. I still think we need to show that whole list when we present this for the people to look at.
I agree. as far as new development, and of course, the revenues that we receive for those development fees is supposed to go towards infrastructure. Is that also built into, is there a cost as part of that facet as this too, or not?
No, we do not have an impact fee or development fee for drainage.
Okay. So this, once again, this is totally new, new fee.
Yep.
Okay, Counselor Savage.
On the capital improvement program, you have the certain streets listed. How are those prioritized over other streets?
Great question. I'll actually turn that over to staff who developed the
Our city
project.
engineer is here, Mr. Allred. Everybody's looking at you.
You're welcome. We wanted you to come up.
So in large part, these are areas that we're seeing some flooding, and that kind of guided these bigger projects is based off of what we're seeing that the need has been over time. So generally, that's how it's been prioritized.
Okay, second question to that. With these streets that you have prioritized, are we having to do more road repairs on those streets because of that?
That's a tough question. I'm going to say most of these, again, aren't necessarily related to road repairs as more related to people's property being flooded. So.
Mayor,
Yes, Vice Mayor.
does putting this into place mitigate liability? I mean, we all know what happened during the monsoons. We all know the neighborhoods that were affected. The citizens were very upset, you know, it was, and rightfully so. But does this help mitigate our liability?
I will be the third or fourth staff person. I would make some arguments that those folks that have complained or filed complaints, we don't have the liability they think we do. But yes, any work that we do that may correct any deficiencies that are at some point caused by the city, sure. But it's more of an, I think I would call it an effort to just be a good city, to try and do our best to protect all the citizens of the city, regardless of a liability issue or not.
Mayor Watkins.
Yes,
I
Counselor
think you
Pat.
asked a question, but I think you phrased it differently, so maybe I didn't catch it. Is this going to be treated as a enterprise fund? Okay, and this
I
will
guess I better answer so everybody can hear it. Yes, it is an enterprise fund.
essentially, will this storm water rate or service fee essentially be attached to your sewer water trash bill for the city?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
the clarification.
Okay, Counselors, Counselor Saley.
I agree with Councilman Walker. You have a lot of new council members here. Some of these projects we talked about so long ago. I mean, we talked about this rate study doing it like 4 years ago. It's taken so long, but these projects are so old, I don't even know when was the last time we went over them. And I agree that if you want to tee up new fees, we need to have a good look at what every single one of these projects are. I think the Western Avenue storm drain, isn't that to keep water out of the hospital? I remember talking about that a long time ago, and if we put in that crosswalk, we were going to put in a drain along Beverly and do all these things to keep those businesses from flooding.
Yeah, the storm drain would be from Sycamore going south, and it would intercept flows that are going into the hospital parking lot.
So
Yeah,
that,
so
I mean,
they've had their
that's a great
generators
project,
and
but-
different things flood in the past, so.
Right, I remember that. They've had quite a bit of problems. But then we're talking about putting that off for a few years. It seems like that hospital project probably be a priority.
There's
Bill?
lots of priorities,
Yeah.
and we can figure out what the different priorities are, but I would say all of these, you know, depending on who you talk to, they're gonna say it's a priority.
Sure, depending on who's impacted. I go back to, I would ask the city manager to put together a report to show the rest of the council what this really pays for, who's impacted, the whys, what is it gonna do? all of those things. Because I think there are a lot of important projects up there, but if we haven't been over them in a long time, it's meaningless. Thanks, Phil, for.
Yep,
Sounds like we need some more detail.
we can do that.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Yes, Councilor Ward.
On the drainage, are we talking storm sewers that's actually going to take the water away from the areas where they're flooding? How are we talking about doing this? Because if you're just moving the water from one place to another, it doesn't help. I've seen it done before.
So some of this is storm sewer, like the Western project that was just mentioned is storm sewer. Other is channels, so channelization of water, moving it around and taking it where it needs to go. Instead of into someone's backyard, we'll take it around and move it. The challenge we have with storm sewer is you got to have a place for it all to go, right?
Yeah,
and so
that was my point.
ultimately you would start like at a wash, like Mojave Wash or something else, and start working your way back. But those projects are really costly. And so we do have, like in our master plan, we have some projects that are storm sewer. I think a lot of these are either basins or channels and other things that will help just keep the water going where it needs to go.
Okay. The thing I see is in my neighborhood, the streets all channel the water to one area. And then it ends up, there's 3 or 4 areas that's flooded and you can't get through. And it just, if you can't get it somewhere that's out of that area, you're just moving it from one place to another. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, and that's always a challenge. And the projects we have, we don't think we're doing that.
Okay.
But we do know that there are areas that we have challenges, right? So.
Okay. I'm good.
Can I ask a follow-up? Sorry, can I ask?
No, actually, and I want to comment a little bit,
Okay.
and then, so, for clarification, for example, the project that was mentioned about the one by the hospital. And of course, when you say storm sewer, then people think it's actually dumping into
Storm drain.
sewer.
Storm
It's a
drain.
storm drain.
Storm drain.
That'll actually, for example, we're channeling it, and it'll go into the Mojave Wash more than
Correct.
likely. Okay, I just want for clarification. Councilor Staley. Okay,
So that water that we're collecting will go into a storm drain and end up in the Mojave Wash for that project.
and I would imagine that's the goal basically all around the city, is to funnel it towards the Mojave Wash, which pulls it away and out.
Water flows downhill and the Mojave
Yes.
Wash is the downhill part.
That's right.
So,
Yes, Councilor Savage.
Does this include new canals getting built?
in some cases, we're building channels to intercept water and route them in different places.
Okay, so it does include.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mayor Watkins, Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Pat.
Does the Mojave Wash contain, I don't know, dry well, re-injection well to replenish our aquifer or some sort of device like that that assists in preserving our water instead of it just sitting there?
It does not. So in order to do like a dry well or something, you want that offline because all the amount of sediment and everything that's flowing through there, those dry wells will just become ineffective very quickly over time.
Thanks for the clarification.
And of course, Mojave Wash, just to reiterate, it all ends up out at dry Red Lake, which is normally dry. But in certain times of the year, this year has been a very wet year. So we actually had a little bit of a lake out there. So.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Allred. Moving on to item 5C, traffic interchanges update. Mr. Foggin.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I've got 3 interchanges that I want to talk to you about, update you on. I want to start with my favorite and the one that's creating some age for me. That would be Rancho Santa Fe. So Rancho Santa Fe update is that we are working extremely hard to get this project through the environmental assessment process with the FAA, who's turning into be my favorite federal agency. They have put us through the grinder, and we went down as a team last week and met with our local district folks and basically had a conversation about how we were going to move this project forward. And that was very productive. We've been caught in this terrible cycle of review, edit, submit, silence, and then surprise, more edits and more review. So at that meeting last week, I invited, called up our state senator offices, our representatives who joined us at that meeting. We had a very productive meeting, and everybody agreed that we were going to get out of the edit stage as quickly as possible. As a matter of fact, Rob and Jack, the reason why they're not in the audience tonight, and Doug Breckenridge, are because they've spent all day with our consultant and the FAA representatives working through the document almost line by line, so that we're not guessing at what the editor wants. We are actually making the corrections on the fly. So I'm anxious to hear back from them to see how that meeting went. I suspect it was very productive. But their delays have changed the schedule. And so where their schedule was July 13th, it is now September 5th. I have told them that my expectation is that we will still work towards the July 13th meeting or deadline. And I think that we actually can hit that, and we will keep you informed on that. So that's our EA fund that just keeps giving. Now, we're hoping that that will be to their legal review team in the next couple of weeks. There's 30 days of review time that we had to give them. In that meeting last week, I was informed that it's very rare for the legal team to take all 30 days. So we should start making up some time with that. So that's the FAA and land release. We also, I'm working and talking with KDP Manager, that is our developer partner on the Rancho Santa Fe project. They told me 2 weeks ago that they're nearly finished. The AECom is doing the engineering for them on their utilities, their utility design, and also for the drainage. AECom is nearly finished with their utility plans, and they are still working on the large detention basin, and they also have a plan B that they may have to resort to depending on what their litigation outcome is with one of the principals in KDP, who has essentially been removed from the LLC. That leads me to the litigation piece. They have been ordered by the judge to go to mediation to resolve this issue. I'm not exactly sure what the deadline is on that. When I met with them, they did not have a mediation deadline at that time, and so I'm looking forward to hearing what their mediation deadline is before it goes back to the judge, or they're able to strike a deal with the partners or the principals. I do have some good news on Rancho. The fact that the developer is continuing to spend money on infrastructure design and that kind of thing is actually good news. But House Bill 2543, which is the rural transportation bill, has passed all of the House and Senate requirements, and has done so with a bipartisan vote, and now just sits and waits for the state to finish their budget process before that is finalized. The good news in that is that there's approximately $10 million identified for the Rancho Santa Fe project. So there's another additional money to help us move forward on that project. So good news there. On the West Kingman TI, that is not our project. I know there's a lot of interest in it, so I felt like it would be appropriate to report on that. I meet monthly with the district administrator, with ADOT, and in our conversation, we reviewed where ADOT is with that. They fully expect to bid that project in late fall, and they're still on schedule to do that. That bidding process will generally takes a couple of months. There's work after that, but we absolutely should see work on the West Kingman TI starting in 2024. So good movement there. Final one is our Kingman Crossing traffic interchange. That is, I just received information today that has passed the ADOT, the 60% plans have passed ADOT and city review and are back to AECOM for 95% completion. That 95% completion is expected to be done at the end of June. It will go through a review process. To be able to go to 100%, it has to go through the ADOT final review. So it is actually conceivable that the Kingman Crossing traffic interchange project could be out to bid sometime in early fall and could be awarded and moving forward in late fall. So I've been meeting with the hospital CEO, trying to help get him up to speed because he's new and doesn't know anything about traffic interchange construction. But he is trying desperately to catch up to speed on it, has been supportive of the project, which of course we're glad for that. We need obviously the KX Ventures to be moving forward, and they are. So good news with Kingman Crossing, and that's where we are with the TI projects.
Thank you, Mr. Foggin. Council, any questions or comments for Mr. Foggin on these? Yes, Councilor Saley.
A couple weeks ago, we received an email from you. You were talking about possibly redesigning the Rancho project, which made me sick to my stomach to even think about in the final hours doing that. And we haven't heard back from you since. So I'm hoping that's because that idea has been scrapped.
Well, it has not been scrapped. So that came from ADOT when we were going through the 60% plan reviews for Kingman Crossing. And basically what ADOT representatives had indicated was that there was opportunity to do a cost savings on the Rancho Santa Fe bridge project, and about a $3 million estimate was about $3 million savings if we went to a smaller bridge span, which would reduce the height requirement, the amount of material that needed to be moved. And so we've just been waiting for a proposal from AECOM to tell us how much that redesign would cost and how long it would take. Their estimate was basically 3 months to do that. So based on where we are with the developer, based on where we are with the FAA land release, there didn't appear to be any time lost by looking at that. And so that's what we're waiting for. That's why you haven't heard anything, is we've not received the proposal from AECOM on what it will cost to redesign that. So
I just want to go on record that I personally am absolutely against that. That was designed that way because of the growth that we expect to see out at the industrial park. And by cutting it back, what you're doing is just asking for down the road later, it being added onto once that traffic is there and that need is there. So I would rather do it the right way the first time and save the city money in the long run, not paying to redesign it, not starting over. We're there. We're ready to put the shovel in the ground. Let's not redesign it now. So that's my opinion. I don't know how everybody else feels, but we missed that boat. And it needs to stay the way it is for those reasons. The height, the width, all those things because of the traffic that we're expecting out there. So I am fully against that.
Mr. Fogan, what was the cost savings going to be? But just, I know it was a rough estimate, but I know there was, the ADOT suggested what the savings could be,
$3 million.
okay? On the project.
Mayor Watkins, if I may.
Yes, Councilor Pat.
Is there, I can't recall, maybe I'm misremembering something, but isn't there already a certain amount of millions of dollars appropriated for the Rancho Santa Fe interchange that is potentially on the line if we do not break ground at a certain time?
So the 20 million, you're referring to the $20 million from the state that is June 30th, 2024.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that is the one, and the good news is that HB 2543 passed, allocating another $10 million, so we would have $30 million coming from the state for the Rancho Santa Fe interchange, and the hang-up that we are having right now is due to the federal government not approving our plans.
So they're not approved, they don't approve the plans. The FAA approves the use of the property for non-aeronautical uses. That's what we're doing with the FAA. And the $10 million is towards the Rancho Santa Fe Parkway, not the interchange. So it's part of the entire project.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Walker.
I have to agree with Councilmember Staley on redesigning the bridge. I mean, it's pay now or pay later, and it's going to cost a lot more later, is my opinion. And this thing's been drawn out for how long that it was going to be so wide, so long. You know, to lower it, narrow it, I don't think it's a good idea. Personally, that's where I'm at.
Mr. Fogan.
So we will be happy to share traffic studies and why ADOT, like I said, we're not, feel like someone is suggesting that I'm out shopping this. This is an ADOT suggestion that deserves to be looked at. We do not have to do it, but based on what they're seeing and the traffic studies that have been done for this interchange is what we will share with you, and the council will certainly be able to make a decision, an educated decision on all of that. And if the council wants to leave it the way it is, fine.
If we go back in time and look at Bill Street and I-40, we look at Stockton Hill and I-40. You know, Harrison is Harrison. I don't know if we could ever widen that, but Stockton Hill needs to be widened. Beale downtown could be wider to handle more of the traffic that's there. So I mean, I think we really need to look, think twice about changing that.
Mayor.
Yes. Well, first comment. As I understand, having talked a little bit more about this, that we're actually not narrowing it down. We're not losing lanes underneath the bridge. It's just really the design of the bridge instead of being a free open span. And Ron, correct me if I'm wrong. It's considered being a free open span. We will actually be able to put pillars in the center.
You will lose width.
Huh?
You will lose width. You won't lose the lanes.
But we won't lose lanes, but yeah, we won't need the big old huge cuts like.
You will lose width on it.
So comparing it, it'll be like the underpass that's out at the industrial park to get into the industrial park, correct? Because that has center columns that help hold the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, it basically would mirror the Kingman Crossing interchange. That's how this came up as a suggestion from ADOT. Is they're looking at traffic studies and they're looking at what's being proposed, and it's just the district project manager that's looking at the plan said, you guys should consider this. There could be a cost savings to you. I mean, that's as simple as it is.
So instead of being open span like Stockton Hill is underneath the freeway,
it would mirror what's designed right now mirrors Stockton Hill.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, that's the current design.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I would like to see the same information that you're seeing and the same comments from ADOT that you're seeing. I agree that, I think council should definitely have a say in this before we go changing things up and changing that timeline. I realize it's not in conflict with what we've been told, but I mean, if they move ahead of schedule and we're still fumbling with this, I would be extremely upset that we are missing out. So I would also, I defer to Councilwoman Staley. I was not a part of that decision, so I don't know what the discussions were and why it was designed the way that it was. So I'd like to have that information as well, so we can make an educated decision, and it needs to be a council decision.
Yep, agreed. And it was designed back in 2005.
That was 3.
Councilor Savage?
Concerning Rancho Santa Fe and the airport, we're looking to develop 700 acres out there of new jobs. Why would we want to narrow a commercial trucking bridge for commercial trucking to the airport? That just seems like a can of worms that's going to be opened down the road, especially if there's another 800
I
acres
am
going.
more than happy to have that conversation when we bring it back to you.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Allred was coming forward. Ron, did you want to get him weigh in on this?
So just, we can certainly provide more information. I just want to provide some clarification. So what we're designing for the interchange is the ultimate width that we need based off of all the studies and everything. We're not narrowing it. We're the ultimate width of the road and everything, all the lanes are going to be based off of what we think is needed for the truck traffic and everything else. The only thing that's changing is instead of having it be a single span, we're going to put a column in the middle. There's already going to be a median in the middle. So the only change really in terms of capacity of the interchange is going to be, well, there is none. The only change is there's going to be a column, and what that'll do is, like what Ron was saying, is it'll reduce the bridge work, and it'll allow us to do less earthwork underneath for the footers of the bridge. That's really the big difference that we're looking at here. So I just want to make sure that point's clear.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, council. Any questions or comments? Okay. It's clear as mud, right? Okay. Item number 6, announcements by mayor, council members, city manager. Mr. Foggen, we'll pick on you again.
Well, I would prefer you didn't. All right. We want to make the council and the community aware of the Work Zone Awareness Week that is happening this week. We absolutely implore and beg for the safety of our employees and any other workers that are on or around the right-of-ways to please, please, please slow down, move over, take care. We would hate to have any of our workers injured. We would hate for any motorist to be injured as part of any construction that is happening in our right-of-ways. So Work Zone Awareness Week. The Tri-City Council meeting is tomorrow in Bullhead. It has got a weird start time. It is 9:30 a.m. It is available by Zoom. And again, that is in Bullhead City, I believe in their city council chambers. It is Bike Week coming up next week. We're headed into the warmer time and just want to make sure that everybody's aware of motorcycles. And we always see a large increase in riders during this time, and especially for this event or this week. So just want to remind everybody that that's happening. And then the Fun Run, basically a celebration of Route 66 in our area, is going to happen May 5th and 6th, and encourage people if you have a classic car, participate. If you don't, come and look at them. They are amazing. And so it's always a big event, fun event. And that is spread, like I said, across our portion of 66. So looking forward to that. And those are the announcements that I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Foggen. Councilor Walker.
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Councilor Savage.
Nothing tonight.
Councilor Ward.
Nothing tonight.
Councilor Staley. Councilor Pat.
I just wanted to express my condolences to the families that are dealing with the collision that occurred on Thursday evening. My heart goes out to you and also those who were injured. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor Pat. Vice Mayor.
I echo those sentiments. Thank you so much.
Okay, one quick thing, actually, along with Work Zone Awareness Week this week, because I read a proclamation yesterday out here on the steps of City Hall. Tomorrow actually is Wear Orange to represent, there you go. Not that you wear a safety vest, but if you have an article of clothing that's orange, wear orange for Work Awareness Week. And if people are asking, why are you wearing such a bright color? You have a good reason to. So, and I echo what all that has been said, and Manager Foggen about, of course, respecting our work zones. And when those speed limit signs are placed there to slow us down, and I'm one of the worst offenders, I will admit it right off the bat, that we need to slow down. I know Chief is keeping his eye on me, I know. So, but let's please do that to our workers and respect that area. So once again, that's all I have. And we thank everybody for being here in chambers and any who might be watching online. And I think without further argument then, I think we can be adjourned. Nope. You still have the option. Oh, I do. We have council requests for future updates, and I'm trying to end this meeting fast.
I'm good with it.
Reports and updates. Councilors, item number 7, council requests for future reports and updates. I think we've actually had some requests come out in our discussions already tonight. So, okay, hearing none and without argument, right? We can adjourn. Thank you once again for being here, and have a good evening.